Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another LitReview where I dumb down scientific journal articles to my level. So today, the journal that I'll be reviewing is titled The Hallux Valgus Evaluation at MRI. Can measurements validated on radiographs be used? This is authored by Nathan Heineman and with his colleagues from UT Southwestern Medical Center and some international university from Beijing and Egypt. So the focus of this paper talks about bunion and how physicians can diagnose or evaluate bunions. And traditionally, it is evaluated on radiograph and sometimes even in an MRI. And a lot of times, patients with bunion will not just have a simple bunion. They will also have other pathology that warrant them to get MRI scanning done. So the authors of this paper kind of thought about that and be like, can we diagnose or evaluate bunion using MRI only? So that way, after those patients go through an MRI scanning, do they really necessarily need to go through an X-ray for additional verification of bunion? And the advantage of that is you first of all reduce the resources and time spent on the patient, so that you could improve healthcare system overall, and also you could reduce the exposure amount of radiation to patient, and which could prevent Hallux formation. That was a joke, but okay. Anyway, so what they did was they took this is a retroactive study. They looked at 56 patients and their X-ray images and MRI images that were taken within the span of 3 months. They didn't want to have any time longer than that, which could result in a significant anatomical difference from just a time alone. So they took 2 sets of film, and for an X-ray image, they took the AP view, weight bearing, and a lateral weight bearing. For an MRI is non-weight bearing of the MRI traditional scan. So they got 2 readers to read the image and calculate the Hallux Valgus angle and intermetatarsal angle. And those 2 angles are classically used to evaluate bunions. Hallux Valgus angle is obviously the angle of the first proximal phalangeal joint from the first metatarsal and how much angle it deviates. And generally, anything less than 15 degrees is considered normal. Intermetatarsal angle of the first metatarsal and the second metatarsal is used along with the Hallux Valgus angle to kind of diagnose bunion, and the intermetatarsal angle should generally be less than 9 degrees. Anything above that will indicate some sort of deformity. So for this research, for this retrospective study, 2 readers read 2 sets of MRIs and X-ray of 56 patients and saw if there's any difference in the angle that they measured. And they were trained equally, in similar fashion, by a senior radiologist to make sure that their methods were in similar fashion. And what they found out was, and after they did that and calculated all the angles and stuff like that, and they averaged it, what they found out was, as a result, first of all, the inter-reader reliability is strongly correlated, meaning that the 2 readers that are reading the film of the X-ray and the MRI, they read them relatively in a similar fashion. So they're basically reading like robots in a way. And also, it's noted here that the interclass correlation coefficient between the radiographs and the MRI were correlated, meaning that the angles that you got from the MRI also correlated with angles that you got from X-rays. But now that's not the end of the study, though, because correlation does not mean necessarily that the 2 methods that they used were equal. So in this research, what they use something called Bland-Altman plot. And that's a statistical tool to basically assess whether 2 methods that they use are interchangeable in its methodology. Can you use MRI instead of X-ray, or can you use X-ray instead of an MRI? And we call that agreement. And Bland-Altman plot is basically a plot with 56. In this case, 56 patients means there's going to be 56 dots, which is plotted based on the mean difference of the 2 mean difference of the X-ray and MRI spread across the standard deviation of the differences. And as long as most of the dots fall within the 2 standard deviation, it means that the 2 methodology used, in this case X-ray and MRI, is in agreement, or aka just interchangeable is the way I interpret it. So as you can look at the plot, most of the sample of the 56 patients fall within the 2 standard deviation. The paper stated that 91% falls within the 2 standard deviation of the hallux valgus angle and also inner metatarsal angle. So this plot kind of basically tells you that, hey, yeah, MRI and X-rays are interchangeable, or they are at least in 95% limit of agreement. 95% limit of agreement based on the 2 standard deviation that most of the data falls under. So what does that mean? So does that mean that the X-ray and MRIs are interchangeable, that you could forego one for the other method? Well, this paper is retrospective study with just 2 readers reading the X-rays and MRIs, so we can't really tell you. I mean, the paper doesn't definitively say it, but it kind of gives you an idea that, hey, it can be interchangeable in certain situations. And honestly, my 2 cents is, this paper was more focused on kind of a validity of each method. X-rays and MRIs they're used for 2 different methods. Generally, MRIs for soft tissue and X-rays generally for bone structure or any osseous deformity. So it's nice to have an idea that those are interchangeable, but oftentimes I feel like each imaging technique has its advantages and disadvantages, and kind of that's the main reason why they shoot it in the first place. But this paper kind of guides you that there is a potential to kind of forego the X-ray and reduce the radiation risk for patient if the patient had already done an MRI of the lower extremity. In regards to Hallux abducto valgus or bunion deformity. And one more thing is that obviously one of the major things that the paper didn't really talk about is that when they were taking the X-ray images, they were not weight bearing, and when they were taking the MRI images, they were non-weight bearing. So there's obviously gonna be difference in how the tissues are reacting and how even the bone spreads out in those 2 situations when you're taking the images. So the study authors noted that they want to evaluate cartilage and soft tissue in relationship to this study. So that was their future plan for the study. And that was just about this paper. It was quite short, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys like to see more, please remember to subscribe.
Dun, 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 dun! Choo, 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 choo.